Okay, record started. So the meeting is in session. Welcome, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Eric Mao. And today we have a lot more actually, people joining via Zoom than in person. That's good. It's the weather's getting better. Today there's a little delay. I apologize because for most people, the downtown area, they're controlled. It's hard to get around. Also, the weather is getting better, but it's definitely sunny inside because you are here.
Is it perhaps Mexican independence?
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
So let me just go through this. Then it's sunny inside. Sunny outside, it's also sunny inside because you are here. Number one. Also because number two, Olawale, Adeniran's here, our speaker. Number three, we have a terrific topic. Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and neocolonialism in West Africa. As the United States occupies itself with war in Ukraine, the crisis in Gaza, and threatening Venezuela, and the tariffs, and immigration, and who assassinated Charlie Kirk. What you don't know can hurt you. Africa, with its 54 countries, is undergoing unprecedented changes that will impact global balance of power, and then more importantly, will bring a brighter future to its people, to the 18.83% of humanity who need and deserve the changes. In today's technology, we can do a lot of research and study of the vast, complex continent, its people, and what's happening at home without going out the door or without going outside the city. And it can be a very tremendously rewarding experience. Yet to me, there's nothing compares to listening to and talking to someone knowledgeable who is from there. As Olawale here provides us that opportunity, just that at the Geopolitical Forum today. Olawale Adeniran
You got
is
it.
a native of Nigeria. Does that mention?
Yoruba.
He moved to US at age 15. He graduated from Roger C. Sullivan High School in Chicago and attended Harper College in Schaumburg and Southwest Community College in Lincoln, Nebraska. He worked at the state of Nebraska as a mental health specialist for 3 years and at the state of Illinois as a mental health technician for 2. So welcome back to Illinois.
Thank you.
He is currently a producer in the life insurance industry. So ladies and gentlemen, Olawale Adeniran.
You're getting closer.
So today's agenda will be, I will have an interview with Olawale. I can call him Ola.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
For about 40 minutes. So in the meantime, I will mute everyone online. Also, It's not, everyone will listen to the conversation for about 40 minutes. After that, it's open to everyone. Of course, the online people will be unmuted. You can raise your hand virtually or raise your physical hand in person. So I will moderate the question, answer, rebuttal statements. It's open to everybody for everything. So Hola, how you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me. Really
It's great to
appreciate it.
have you, and I'm
Sorry
very
about
grateful
this
that,
today.
oh, that's no problem, it's out of our control. So how is it Nigeria? What do Nigerian people want?
Okay. That's actually like a broad question, and I'll just try and narrow it down, saying like basically what most Nigerians want is, especially from the leadership, is what we are seeing in Captain Ibrahim Traoré right now. If we can have at least half of what he's doing in Nigeria, I think most Nigerians will be satisfied with it.
Okay, so what do people in, as I understand, that's Burkina Faso. And Nigeria is also in the Sahel region.
No, it's not. Nigeria is more on the western side.
And it's not controlled by France.
It's not. It was colonized. Or would you like me to just give you a brief
Absolutely,
summary of
absolutely, background knowledge, it will be very nice.
Nigeria achieved independence from the British rule October 1st, 1960, initially forming a parliamentary republic. The country has since experienced periods of both civil and military rule, marked by significant events such as the Nigerian Civil War from 1967 to 1970, coups in 1966 and 1980s, and eventual reestablishment of a stable democracy with the Fourth Republic in 1999. Modern Nigeria faces challenges related to its diverse ethnic groups and regional divisions, with a continuing efforts to maintain a stable federal democracy.
So you said Nigeria is hoping for same kind of leadership as a relatively new leader that Burkina Faso has.
Yeah, basically.
So what concrete policies or change that they are hoping for?
Actually, I don't think it's even more about policies. It's more about effectiveness, how words do match actions and how they're consistent with it, and seeing like the developments like materialize in a timely manner. And those are all the things that we can see in Captain Ibrahim Traoré right now, because accountability, like transparency and things of that nature. And I think most especially policies and laws that is created that upholds moral humanity. Like instead of, so most of the time, the laws that are governing us, we don't even know why it's there. People are not telling us why the law is there, what it's meant to do. We're just meant to follow. And we've been following those rules and regulations for quite some time. But it seems like it has left us like paralyzed and voiceless in a democratic structure whereby it's for the people, by the people, of the people. But it seems like it just works for the elite and the upper class of people in the structure itself. So, you know, with what Captain Ibrahim Traoré is doing right now, we can see the correlation between.
What exactly was he doing?
It's doing a whole bunch. It's doing a whole bunch. Like
Yeah.
I can't start from one. And I'll eventually get into it as time goes on.
Okay.
But it's doing a whole bunch. The first thing that I feel sparked the foundation for why he's able to move this way is detaching himself or the country away from like imperialism, whereby they're not able to use their raw material and everything is being produced or like extracted just to be exported overseas. For example, like coffee or something, like a country like Uganda is constantly producing the coffee beans and everything, and eventually they don't get it to the finished product because everything is just being exported out of the continent and for a very cheap price. I can even say basically for free, and eventually it gets to somewhere like Switzerland or something, and they repackage it and they're selling it back to them in like almost $20 or even for a little jar. So it's like maybe if we can actually like oversee the process from the raw material to the finished product, maybe we can sell it for $20 and see if they will buy it at that price, you know. So that's just a little example of what I mean.
I see. Yeah, when I was in Switzerland, they were talking about their cheese and chocolate. I was like, cheese, I understand, but chocolate, where'd you get the chocolate? Cocoa,
Exactly.
right? The tour guide didn't give me a straight answer. Well, obviously they got it from Africa, and they got it cheap, and then they use it and package it. They make it nice chocolate,
very presentable.
Right. Yeah, and then Switzerland is big on chocolate, so they can sell it back to to countries. They get the raw materials.
Right.
And as far as I know, like in Nigeria, they have uranium, and Sahel countries, they got rid of for the most part the French influence, like in the recent year, military as well as economic.
Yeah, basically because with the Sahel, what they've been going through is just like a deep like colonization of the French, whereby their national language is French, their currency is being printed from France, and there is no sovereignty in what they're doing because basically, even to the point of the government, workers, employees, salaries, it's being paid by France, I mean. So it's almost like actually what I noticed happened was the French actually seized a whole bunch of money that they were supposed to send back to Burkina Faso based on maybe that's one of their manipulated tactics or whatever. And I think that was what sparked Ibrahim's stories, like revolting. Like, you know what, you guys can keep the money, but we're not going to be in this vulnerable situation whereby if we don't comply to what you're saying, you can just seize every frozen asset. And they were thinking like doing that would probably destabilize the nation and turn into some chaotic scene. But this Captain Ibrahim is so intelligent. Like he actually related it back to the population, like, hey, this is what we're going through. But if you guys want to freeze the asset, we don't even want the money, but we are going to reclaim the gold mines and everything, and it's going to be for us. We're not exporting anything. And eventually they partially released like the frozen assets. It's like, we don't want it. But the key point is that from now, we're not exporting like our gold. It's going to be for Burkina Faso itself, not exporting it to France. And that's what actually sparked like the revolution or something.
So I hear that the leader of the relatively new leader was Traoré. He joined forces with Mali's leader and Niger leader. Yeah, they jointly kick the French out. France, when at this moment, they don't have military forces on the ground.
Exactly.
Which they have forever, but now it's gone. And the US is not welcome either.
Yeah, because it's just like the barrack stays, but the soldiers keep going back and forth. You know, I don't know, it's like a proverb, but what I mean is like nothing is really changing other than faces, people, generations, but the principles that is guiding everything, it still remains the same. So at that point, it's like as long as it's just like the colonial master that is changing, we're not really progressing.
So what's the leverage the French have that enable them to have this kind of influence for so long?
I'll just say it's bullying from my own little knowledge, because the reality is the Burkina Faso people, they've been indebted to France based on while they were colonized by them, they paved like less than maybe 3,000 miles of paved road or something, and they're like, you guys got to pay us back. So but that's been since like 1960 or even earlier than that. But just because they gained their independence, they're like, oh, then you guys have to pay us for this road and whatever, and they've been indirectly using that as leverage to keep taxing them. And it's like they were still paying for that less than 3,000 miles of paved road till of recent. It's like in a country like Burkina Faso, and you guys have been in charge for quite some time, we should have a lot more paved roads other than the ones you guys did in like how many generations ago, and you still get paid for that. So that means obviously the work you did is overpriced if you still feel like you can still be getting paid for what you did in like the early 60s or something still right now. Like it's never ended, and that's unfair. And it's not like you are actually building more paved roads. Like it's just based on what you guys did before they gained their independence. So it's like it doesn't sit well if we're being like realistic, you know.
Yeah, they control your currency. They have a like currency federation.
Yeah.
So France will be able to take the foreign currency reserve for those Sahel countries.
Basically, it's
put in a French coffer and give you, in exchange, give you the currency that they printed.
Exactly, and basically what it boils down to is like, let's just look at it from percentages wise. 100% of the whatever generated from Burkina Faso goes to France. France gets it, takes about 85% of it based on you owe us this, interest, that, just name it. But they hold on to about 85% of the income and expect a country to run on 15%. So that's why it's so difficult for them to develop out of that, because 15% out of 100, it's typically nowhere to run a country, you know.
And what about Nigeria? Who is the colonial master, if you will, for Nigeria?
The British.
Up until when?
I'll say like around 1960, like around, that's what I said, like 1960.
Well, you're talking about the political independence. Usually the economic independence comes after political independence, if ever, right? But India, the political independence was accomplished in 1948, but economic independence came gradually, little by little, for decades after that.
I don't think they have an economic independence in there.
Nigeria doesn't yet. So what's the British leverage? How British people's government's leverage? How do they still control Nigeria?
It's indirectly, because basically from my observation, what happened is like the British left, but the structure still runs the country, and they chose a few people to assume that position that they left, and those people are carrying out their ideologies. So even though they're sitting there in that position as Africans, they actually operate as Westerners. They are so detached to like the common Nigerian. Even for example, a civilian president is still being guarded by military forces. Then what's civilian about that? Why would them? And in a situation whereby head of states, which was military, like head of state, you know, Iran, so it's a great example. Like they call him President Olusegun Obasanjo. Iran I don't know, I have everything listed here. If we have time, we can just be more. Yeah, but Iran, he took over after a coup. They made him the head of state for like that period. And all of a sudden, like in like 1999, I mean, he ran again and he became the civilian president. And now it's looking more like a pattern, because there's another guy named Mohammed Buhari. He was the head of state back in the 80s, like 83 or something. And by like 2015 or so, he's now running as a civilian president. So it's just like they are being bamboozled because, trust me, Nigeria has a lot of intellectuals that are capable of running the country. So we don't need someone that has already spent time in the office in his youth days as a military man to now come back in his elderly age to run as a civilian as well. Like, and we are not progressing. We don't see their innovations. They are basically disconnected from the youth and what is needed for this present moment. We definitely appreciate their sacrifice during their youth days and whatever they had to do to get us where we are right now. But we can actually still go and seek their advices and suggestions based on how to govern or run the country, but we don't need them in that position because they are not physically, psychologically, you name it, on so many different levels. They are not even innovative enough to actually create solutions for the problems we're facing right now. And I think that's why a country like Burkina Faso is actually progressing at a fast pace, because the Captain Ibrahim Traoré is basically still in his 30s and he's energetic. He can actually walk to the streets and talk to normal people. He can be in the office and still be intellectually inclined to know what is right from what's wrong on so many different levels, But for example, the president of Nigeria right now, I don't think he's able to do that. I don't think he's able to do that. And he's a very powerful man in Nigeria. Like, everybody basically is a god in Nigeria based on how he has been able to penetrate even unseen forces to get to where he is right now. But he's not able to walk on the streets and actually interact with people. When you see him coming, he can have over 24 cars convoy just because it's coming around and everything shuts down. And it's like, dude, why is it this serious, man? Are we supposed to be afraid of you? Or we're
afraid of you. That's right.
Exactly, because the structure of the British is still there. Because I can understand while the British were colonizing and everything, in the back of their mind, they might be pretty skeptical, because it's just like me coming to China and trying to take over China and tell you guys what to do. At some point, I realized I do need a lot of security and people that can safeguard my presence there. So that's why they would roll with a lot of convoy, like military, SSS, everything to keep them in a bubble whereby the masses wouldn't just attack them for no reason,
Is there like an ethnic different, like rebels and resistance, or
Actually,
certain parts of the country?
what it is Nigeria itself, it's a nation within nations. And it's very difficult for Nigeria to be one nation because they basically have at least 250 ethnicity. Mm. And what makes a nation? Somewhere like America, everyone speaks English. In the British area, England, everyone speaks English. In German, everyone speaks Dutch. In Chinese, everyone speaks Chinese. So that validates why it's a nation. But in Nigeria, when you have like almost 250 million people with over 250 ethnic groups with their different way of living, different like languages, so many different regions. So it's very difficult for it to be a nation. So if this is just being imposed on us, because the reality is Nigerians are more tribalistic than patriotic. A lot of Nigerians don't know what it means to be a Nigerian, including myself. How I started realizing what it means to be a Nigerian was when I stepped outside of the shore of Nigeria itself. And my passport, they didn't put me as a Yoruba man or boy. It's like, you're Nigerian. Nigerian, okay. I guess I am Nigerian. And then and eventually I started realizing the bad reputation that what it means to be Nigerian outside of the shores. So it's like, whoa, I'm not like that. Why is that being imposed on me? And I'm like, hey, that's just what it is. Like, look, and they have a whole bunch of proof and evidence to back it up. So at some point, it's like, that I don't have to leave like your stereotype. At least you can say whatever you want to say about me, but I'm not forced to leave in that stereotype. And I leave the way I understand how to leave. But the reality is, a lot of Nigerians on the soil, number one, they're more tribalistic than patriotic about Nigeria itself. And number two, a lot of them don't even know what it means to be Nigerian.
Is that pretty common, that phenomenon? Common in some other African countries?
What's sad about it is I can't really speak about a lot of African countries because what happens is as Africans, we get boxed into our nation or our tribe or our villages. Very few people travel because of the visa barriers, the money, financial, the so many reasons. So at the end of the day, you just find out like a lot of people stay in one spot for a long time. Like you must be pretty privileged to be able to move around and go and visit somebody else in another state. Because at some point, if you don't have a family over there, you can't just go over there. You can't, and everybody's so scared of traveling because on this side of town is full of Yorubas. On that side is full of Hausas. This is playing back to, I'm telling you, like the ethnicity and over 250 dialects being spoken all over the country. It's almost like people stay where they are most comfortable and they don't want to risk the idea of going far away from their comfort zone and deal with the repercussions, especially if they don't know how to, coordinate themselves.
So historically, when the British left and politically left, they say these are the borders and within the borders of Nigeria, without any regard for the real reality on the ground, where people don't have their common identity as one country. They have different cultures, different languages, supposedly religions as well.
Definitely.
So that causes a problem. And do you think they did it on purpose? So Nigeria
was definitely a strategic move. It was a strategic move because the name itself came up from like the Niger area. It was, especially Nigeria it was created for business purpose. It wasn't created as a nation. It was created just for business.
So who's controlling the most resources, most power in Nigeria, ethnicity wise? Because as far as I know, Nigeria is probably one of the biggest oil producing countries in Africa. It is the most populous country in Africa. So there's a lot of power. But population aside, because I'm thinking, would Nigeria be better off, or what's stopping Nigeria from, since this hodgepodge, like many groups into one country, which is detrimental for the country, if you want to count it as a country. Mm-hmm. So would it be better that you carve out the best part of Nigeria, if you will, a country itself, and the other parts, you can go on your own. But it sounds a little selfish, but things like that happens in history and other regions. So you have the best part, let's say the most oil wells and the big cities, big country by itself. And the others, countryside, the other areas, you can be your own countries. What stops them from doing that?
Actually, the scenario you just painted came up like that was what led to the Civil War, actually, because after independence and everything, the people from the eastern side, they call the Igbos, they actually realized like, wow, we can actually survive ourselves once they realized they had resources and they are still very industrious people, and they wanted to break out of Nigeria because they realized, like, because what happened is Nigeria has a federal system now, and the federal system gives the federal the dominion over all the states in Nigeria. And they didn't want that. They wanted to like go and create their own republic because they have enough resources at their own spot whereby they can fend and be self-sufficient. And the Nigerian government didn't want that because if everyone was based on ethnicity and region, then some people will be out of luck and some people will be in abundance. So when the federal system came in, it was like, nope, Nigeria has to stay as one so they can tap into every resources in that nation.
So you have material about the wider region than Nigeria, wider region than Sahel.
Yeah, a little bit, but I feel more comfortable speaking about Nigeria because I've been there, I was born there, and I kind of I know the psychology, at least to an extent, how it plays. With Niger, Burkina Faso, basically a lot of the things I know about it, I read and researched, and so I'm not, whatever I say, I might be right or wrong, but I definitely didn't come here to deceive anybody. And you can always do your own research online just to fact check what I'm saying. But with Nigeria, I am definitely giving you like the gist of.
That's great. That's what's precious about having a real person from there to speak to us, as opposed to getting information from media or books or other places.
Actually, especially with Burkina Faso too, eventually I'm going to have to go there in person because all the stuff I'm seeing online, I don't know how believable it is. I want to believe it's true, but just based on, I love to travel and I travel a lot. And I've noticed there's a misleading perception of what you see online compared to what's on the ground.
Can you give us some examples so we can have concrete idea how people twist it or spin it or
basically the one that got to me the most, the one that because I think was it last year? Yeah, last year I think I was in Nigeria for the Independence Day, and I've not been in Nigeria for like the Independence Day for quite some time. It's been a while, and I don't know how to celebrate it. But what I try to do is, and it's coming up pretty soon, October 1st, we can try it out, is like when you go online and they show you what they're celebrating, it looks very glorious, very celebratory, you name it. It feels like the whole country is actually like jiving because of their independence. So I was so excited to be part of that vibe when I was in Nigeria, but come to find out, a lot of Nigerians don't even really care about Nigerian Independence Day. Like everyone is still going to work and doing what they do just to make a living. It's just a chosen few that they might go to the white version of White House, the Aso Rock. They might do just to record it and post it online. So for people in the diaspora like myself, when I see that, it creates an illusion in my mind, thinking like, "Whoa, Nigeria is good, do this." It was, just thinking like, "Wow, I wish I was there." Like, but when you were there in person, it was totally different. Like, at least way more than 75% of the population don't even celebrate Nigerian independence. It's just a very chosen few that are trying to keep up the democratic ideology and all that, and they throw big parties, ceremonies, flags everywhere, and sing the national anthem. The president might give a speech. Just keep doing all this like fragmented things and post it to the media or something, and everybody. Typically, the majority of the population are not really into it like that. It's more about I'm trying to go to my place of business and make some money. Oh, it's Nigerian Independence Day. Maybe you guys are going to buy some stuff from me today. Right. It's they're squeezed. They're so squeezed about their economics to the point of sometimes a lot of them don't even have time to have a holiday or because it's at their loss. it's at their loss 100% if they don't capitalize on, oh, it's Nigerian independence. Maybe I can sell something to even increase like my profit or something instead of actually using that day to remember the struggle Nigeria has been through as a nation and what the founding fathers fought for and reminisce on where we've been and where we at right now and trying to see where we are heading towards. I'm thinking that's what that day should represent for all of Nigeria, including the government and the citizens. But there is no platform or atmosphere for that. It's still based on the dollar has risen, the price of oil has doubled. What you bought for 1,000 naira is now 2,000 today because it's Nigerian Independence Day. You know, it's just inflation and austerity everywhere with no type of price control, and it's just very like inconducive for to the idea of like this is an Independence Day celebration. This is more like I don't even know the word for it.
They don't have the common identity.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
the key point. A lot of people are more tribalistic than patriotic. I mean,
when facing outside, like real foreign countries, what countries have the most influence, or what other countries have influence in Nigeria besides the Brits? The Brits, they still have influence.
Oh, definitely.
Right,
definitely.
Especially the ruling class, they have the legacy. And currently, are there British companies in Nigeria doing a lot of business?
Definitely.
How about British military? Not there, right?
The relationship between Nigeria and the British is so intertwined that there are some Nigerians that are actually British in ideology. So you might see a Nigerian who sound like me now with a Yoruba name and all that, but my ideology is basically British or American just because that's what I'm used to and that's what puts me in a better situation. So the relationship there is that you could see a British company ran by a Nigerian.
Like British, a Nigerian branch of some British internet, like a multinational.
Let me just give you an example. A company like Shell.
Yeah.
Shell is a foreign corporation, but when you go or Chevron, all these companies, you find pretty good Nigerians that are in the upper ranks in the industry itself, and it's not like they're there to secure Nigerians' interest in part of the deal that they're having. They're there to just represent the British or the American or whoever's interest. So we are so divided based on, and there's a lot of classism in Nigeria as well, other than tribalism. That's on top of that, we have classism too, and everything is ran by money. As long as you don't have money, you are on the bottom, and that's where you're gonna be. And some people, even if he has $100 more than you, he feels he's way better than you and talk to you from that position. Like you don't even have $100. I bet you should kneel down for me. And if someone has $200, that will talk. So it just goes on because of the classism, and that's why most of our leaders basically embezzle and hoard money so bad because that's another form of them being above the law or any other thing. Because because they don't care what you bought for, let me say $100 today, when you go there the next day, it's $150 now. I'm like, why is it increasing? They'll just tell you, oh, that's the exchange rates. The price of oil has gone up because of the whatever. But to people that have hoarded money so much, it doesn't make a difference. They're actually looking for a reason to spend the money, and they don't mind overpaying for anything because they have the money in abundance and there's nothing else to do with it. So at some point, what that does is it makes them lose the sense of value of what they're paying for. Something that should just cost you $100, you can see someone going there and pay $1,000 for it just to prove to the next person like you can't afford $1,000. So that keeps driving up the price of everything and it's not just in just basic trade. It's in everywhere, from the hospitals to the schools to like even social gatherings to you name it. It's everywhere like that, to the point of like, what are you guys doing? So imagine like money doesn't exist. We're not gonna find a way to actually survive or have a community just based on everyone is so cared about money, 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 and yet the money is not circulating enough for the population to actually sustain itself. So that is automatically most people are actually slaves
Are
because
there other countries have their companies or their footprints in Nigeria, like Russia, China, Japan,
no, actually for
or
right
some
now,
other
China,
European countries,
China,
Germany, or
China seems to be the most dominant for right now, and they're making a lot of like developments.
Nigeria?
Yeah, in Nigeria, like building the airports, the railway, train stations, and just we can feel their presence in Nigeria right now. But usually Nigeria is just like it's like a market. Anyone that has good money can just come in there, and just even the Indians are there too, like dominantly too, buying up like all this noodles, noodles companies. They come there, set up a factory to make noodles, and they run that factory, and they are making pretty good money because right now a lot of Nigerians actually eat noodles. It's been that way, but it has escalated to the point of like that's actually one of the staple food in Nigeria right now. And it's noodles used to be one of the cheapest meal you could have in Nigeria. Like if you don't have your last dime, you're like, oh, let me have some noodles because you had organic vegetables and everything. But now, and this is one thing I noticed about Nigeria too, and that's why noodles has gotten even more expensive than usual because the demand for it has gotten so massive. Like instead of them keeping it at an affordable price because the traffic is moving quite fast, they will actually jack up the price because now they got everybody hooked on it and the demand is even maybe outweighing the supply. So now they'll jack up the price like it's now this amount and it keeps going on. And it's not just noodles, anything in Nigeria. And that's kind of backwards in my thinking because as long as you have the steady traffic flow and you are able to get rid of your goods as soon as possible, that should stabilize the price and keep the uh, traffic predictable, but instead of that, they capitalize on that traffic and keep increasing the price. And basically there's no price control in Nigeria. That's how I see it.
Um, are there organized rebels, resistance, troublemakers that will occupy some of the military's time to, well,
that's what I'm saying because definitely
or any kind of pressure on the government that coup, they have to guard.
for my own opinion, and based on what history has shown us, it's just the military itself that can organize coups and destabilize and basically overthrow the presidency and all that. Other than that, I've not seen anyone in Nigeria pull that kind of stunt. So that being said, they have like the extremist group Boko Haram. I don't know them personally, but the story being broadcasted is like they're destabilizing the nation, this and that. And the reality is number one, these people, they are mostly on the northern side of the nation. Most people that I know, I'm more on the south or southwest, like Lagos is kind of like a big city. And we don't really have no reason to go to the north. Actually, the northerners have more reason to come to Lagos than a Lagosian going to the north because Lagos is a financial hub. It's pretty busy and it's close to the ocean. So not just the northerners, almost everybody in Nigeria has to come to Lagos for business wise, especially if they're trying to export or like import anything, because it's bordered by the Atlantic Ocean, you know. So the only time someone like me hear anything about Boko Haram is what I see on the media. And what surprises me the most is like this Boko Haram people, they are not attacking the government, because at some point we have to create a dialogue and see like, what is your motive? What are you guys doing, committing all these atrocities for? Like, what's your motive behind it? And they are not tackling the government. They are not coming to big cities where we have a lot of intellectuals and resources to actually face them. They are constantly destabilizing farmers, villagers in isolated areas. These people are poor. So what's the essence of you trying to rob a poor person? They don't have no political power. They don't, what are you gaining from that? My my conclusion is like it's just a way of creating news, imposing fear on people, and redirecting the resources and the attention of what the government is supposed to be doing, being accountable to the population, and focus all that resource to try to capture, because regardless of the extremist group, they're not even up to 1% of Nigerians. So if the government cannot neutralize 1%, I'm even being generous, because at least 250 million people, 1% of that, we're still in the millions. So it's like and I know they're not up to millions. That's why I'm telling you I'm being generous. So if the government cannot neutralize a few thousand people with all the resources and the power and you name it, then what is that about? That means then how can we trust them to guarantee our safety if they cannot neutralize less than 1% of the population? And yet, this population, they're not really disturbing us, especially in Lagos, as I said. Everybody will keep passing the narrative, oh, the Boko Haram, they just invaded this. But the reality is, have they invaded you? Who do you know that they've invaded? Let's go and meet them and listen to their experience, because there's a lot of fabricated stories that just is being circulated. And right now we have to be very careful and deal with people, deal with people that have dealt with them, personally, and let's hear their own experience. I'm not just gonna believe what you're telling me based on what you're showing me on the media, or based on what my neighbor is just telling me regarding saying what they watched somebody else say. And it's like I'm not gonna be following blindly, but based on my own experience, I know, like, number one, what is their motive? Let's figure that out. And I actually came up with a strategy just to show you, like, even if someone like me can come up with this strategy that I know, like, it might actually work, then what is the government doing with their resources? And secondly, we see most of all this extremist group online posting on social media, flaunting their wealth and their advanced weaponries and all that. And I'm like, and we're still looking for these guys?
Where do they get their wealth? Where do they get their financial resources?
Number one,
for weapons,
we can definitely suspect a superpower foreign country, nation, and we can actually suspect our own government too, or people with influence. Because the reality is, number one, like I said, we see these people posting online, flaunting like foreign currencies and have advanced machineries, And number one, Nigeria doesn't make weapons. So where are they getting all this advanced weapons from. That's a clue, like definitely it's coming from overseas. And number two, if it's coming from overseas, how is it getting past like customs, immigration, and all that without creating like a suspicious?
Or they can go the other way. They can go across the border.
There is
The
no
jungle.
other way. There is no other way because then what's the idea of immigration and border patrol and everything if the whole surroundings is not being monitored and making sure like it's just like if I want to come into this library right now, I probably have maybe 3 or 4 sources. If I don't go through the main entrance, I probably go through the emergency or there might be a pipeline, but all that has to be put into consideration and be tackled just because we know people want to smuggle some stuff or whatever. So if you guys are not doing that, that means you intentionally left a spot for them. So you could be like, oh, they didn't pass through the main door, so we don't know how they're getting it in. So that's not legitimate if the government was trying to do what they want to do. Because even in America, for example, people through Mexico, Canada, but everywhere is being tackled, knowing like these are the entry points. So why are they not doing the same thing? So, and
So,
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
how's the relations with neighbors? Nigeria.
What do you mean by?
Do they have a particular conflict or tensions with certain neighbors, better with other neighbors, or
Like I said, the
neighboring countries then?
neighboring countries.
Yeah,
Mm,
international relations.
actually, from my own knowledge, Ghana seemed to be one of the countries whereby we have had a good relationship with before, and we still go back and forth because definitely Ghana is smaller than Nigeria, but that's a key strategic, they have a key strategic position to play, and we're not so far away from one another. So sometimes Ghanaians find themselves in Nigeria, and sometimes Nigerians find themselves in Ghana too, just based on maybe financial opportunities or like education or just tired of being in Ghana. I heard Nigeria is doing good. Let me just go to Nigeria, or I'm tired of being in Nigeria. Oh, you should try Ghana. It's just a couple of hours away or something. So we have Cameroon and other like Cotonou, Port Novo, so many, but I don't think we share that kind of relationship with them. A lot of other neighboring countries just want to make it to Nigeria. A lot of Nigerians don't want to go to their country. Ghana just seems to be like the only one that we've been able to keep that kind of relationship whereby I won't be surprised to see a community full of Nigerians in Ghana, and I'll be surprised to see a community full of Ghanaians in Nigeria. Actually, when I was in grammar school in Nigeria, most of my teachers were Ghanaians.
Oh.
So that's what I'm saying. Having a career opportunity that can like lure a lot of Ghanaians to come to Nigeria. And actually, there was a time they were around like in Doves, and a lot of them, that's why they were occupying all these teaching jobs and everything. But I think something happened, like the Nigerians were claiming, like the Ghanaians were occupying all their jobs and everything. And the leadership just basically told them they had to go back home because the population was getting like so broad to the point of like Nigerians were complaining they don't have a job. And Ghanaians are taking the most lucrative part of the positions. And at some point, the government had to initiate that. That's when the term Ghana must go came up. Like Ghanaians had to go, so they chased them back to Ghana. And that was what slowed down that relationship. But there was a time like they were pretty dominant in Nigeria.
Okay. We learn a lot about Nigeria. Do you have anything to add?
I have a whole bunch.
Regions,
You can just ask me whatever you want, and if I
Well, we will let
okay,
the
yeah,
audience, everybody, open
sure.
to everyone for anything. So, I think you can, I actually didn't have to mute everyone on Zoom. So you can raise your hand, you can unmute yourself when you're ready to ask a question or have some discussion with Ola.
You were saying about, what is it, Boko Haram? I heard about Chini, and then a lot of that, my understanding is that they're being used as proxies from the Western proxies to like destabilize neighbors, especially people who are trying to develop their own economy. They want to destabilize them, and they get their weapons from the West. And there's like actual ports that they go into ports that says this is from this port, and then they know exactly the town, and then they can trace it to the outback where these groups are getting their weapons. And also I heard, what was it, that there's actually direct transfer, technological transfer to terrorists in the field when they're being confronted by national militaries. Did you hear anything about that?
Not really, but what I could say on that topic is basically on the northern side of Nigeria, it's full of the Hausas and the Fulanis, and they they share like a borderline with other African countries that are landlocked. They are not around the sea. So a lot of nomadic Africans, like maybe Chad or something, they easily walk into the northern side of Nigeria, and with their cattle and all this kind of stuff. So at some point, that increases the it increases the population of the northern people, and most of them are not necessarily Nigerians because of they share the same landline border, just like how Mexicans can find their way into the United States because they share land mass with America at some point. So that's kind of how this neighboring countries like Chad, and I've forgotten a few of them, and most of them are actually nomadic people. They just walk around. So sometimes they walk in there and they might have a lot more uh, Islamic terrorist ideologies coming from where they're coming from. And when they meet up with people so sometimes we really have to investigate who this so-called extremist group are, because most of them come from overseas. Not overseas, I mean like just neighboring countries, and they mingle in with the Hausa people, and the Hausa people speak Arabic, and they speak Arabic too, based on the Arab slave trade, and now everyone is speaking Arabic, and they just see them as brothers because they are speaking the same language. And before you know it, it becomes very difficult to differentiate who is actually a true Hausa person or who is just a nomadic person that is now living with the Hausas. And that's how they penetrate and infiltrate that little community. And some of them can, I'm not necessarily saying like some Hausas are not on the extremist group category as well, but I'm just trying to highlight it to show like it's not just based on the Hausa people. We have basically foreigners joining them, and it's very difficult to differentiate who is a true Nigerian and who is not, because they blend in so well. And those people, because I think as a sane Nigerian, you really just don't want to keep carrying out all these atrocities if Nigeria is truly your country. But that being said, most Nigerians are tribalistic, not patriotic. So based on that, if an outside person feels like he's been disrespected by an evil person, he might like lash out a rage on him, on her. And we have those type of incidences too in Nigeria, whereby that's why people are scared to move around like that. You know, you just stay where you're comfortable with, because if and if an outside person gets killed in an Igbo territory, that means if a northerner that relocated east, which is the Igbo territory, gets killed there, the media can blow it up. Once the northerners see that on the media, they can start attacking any easterner that stays within their own territory too, as a form of tick for tack. And that stuff happens in Nigeria too, pretty quite often, whereby no one is safe, so everyone is trying to stay within their boundaries, because for some strange reason it can easily be turned on you just because you are way outside of a comfort zone.
So it seems to me like there are two layers. The political class, people with power, they want a big Nigeria. But the average people, they're just different. They don't think about Nigeria as a country. They just want to take care of themselves and their family.
Actually, at this point, it's gotten so bad. Like, we don't have middle class anymore. There is no middle. Before, the middle class used to be the one holding Nigeria together.
When?
No, probably right after independence, because all the opportunities.
One more time, independence in 1960?
Okay. 1960s, because all the opportunities our parents had during that time, we definitely didn't come across it, because during that time, education was free. People during that time, the naira was even higher than dollars. It was 1 naira to 1 pound. During that time, it's like they beg you to come and study overseas. Like, it's like that during that time, it's like if you're being a bad kid and you know your parents just wanted to show you like, man, you're getting to sports in this Nigeria, I'll send you to the UK. You learn how to be tough and deal with the weather, and so that's during those times.
People could afford.
Yeah, because everything was
sending
good.
kids to overseas.
The education was great. That's why you find even older Nigerians to be even more educated than the recent Nigerians, because they were able to go to school basically for free. They were able to do so many things, acquire all these key positions.
So, in your view, economic situation deteriorated.
It did.
Compared to.
It did. Since then, I don't even think ever since independence, I don't think we've had a better economic situation better than those days, because it's just getting worse. If you tell people like there was a time a naira was to a pound, a lot of people will argue it like, really? Because now a dollar can be as high as 1,700 naira.
Oh, wow.
A dollar can be as high as when we talk of pounds, it can even go up to like 2,000 naira for 1 pound. So it's just like, where are we heading to? Why is the currency being depreciated so much and so fast? And it's not even like, oh, it's gonna be like this just for like 6 months or a year. It's like from the morning till night, you can see a change.
Like as a norm, or
it's a norm. It's
really?
a norm, actually. Like, you can go and change something in the morning, like as early as maybe 9 o'clock. No, let me don't even keep it that way. Let's just use a day, a 24-hour period. You can go and change your dollars to naira at a certain rate for a 24-hour period, and you go back again the next day, it has increased. It barely decreases.
I see.
It barely decreases, and that's why it can go from that equal amount to like $1 has high as 1,700 naira. It's unimaginable. Like what's going on? That's why a lot of people don't even, especially for people in the diaspora, it doesn't give them any incentives to invest in Nigeria. And at that point, they pray like the naira should keep going down because that means their dollars will have more value. But that doesn't really mean it has more value. Like typically, it just means like you have a lot more quantity. It doesn't mean like it has something to do with the quality because the price rises with the dollar too and everything. So for example, what you should be buying for like 500 naira, once the foreign exchange switches up, it affects the price of that stuff. That would now be 1,000 naira too. So it doesn't really, it's just like we're following the race, but it doesn't really help the quality. It's more about quantity, you know?
No. Anyone on Zoom have any questions, statements? Comments?
Are there any rare earth minerals in Nigeria? And what do you think China's interests are there?
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of minerals in Nigeria. Nigeria is blessed with like abundance of minerals, whereby that's been our blessing and our curse at the same time. So, but the problem is, our educational system don't enlighten us on what we have under the soil. It trains us to become modern slaves, how we just want to travel to any other country outside of Nigeria. And we don't know what we are looking for over there, but we just believe since their currency is stronger than the Naira, we'll be doing better over there anyway. So they are not educating the students, the parents, the only people that know what Nigeria truly has under the soil is the government and the foreign nations. And that's sad in itself because that you find foreign nations coming and basically, especially with like Google Maps and satellites and stuff, they can literally pinpoint where the oil reservoirs are. They can pinpoint where the gold, where the diamonds, where everything is without even touching the soil. So you just find out like at some point they just come and be like, oh, we'd like to buy this land. We want to, because it's a strategic move. And when they come over there, you probably just think you're selling your land. But the reality is what's under that land is even more valuable than the land you just sold. And sometimes they make those type of deals with the government whereby the government protects them to come and extract whatever they want out of it. And that's a problem in itself because the educational system in Nigeria is not catering to the problems and solutions that we are facing in Nigeria. If we are being indoctrinated to want to become doctors, lawyers, you name it, so many things that once you fall into that ideology, then the money race becomes the problem because it takes a lot of money for you to become a doctor. So you as a poor kid with your parents basically living in abject poverty, you have a mindset of you want to become a doctor and that's what you've been told and that's what you're heading towards. But the reality is your parents can't afford it, even though you might actually be intelligent enough to become a doctor because you saw it as a dream and you would love to do it. Your parents can't pay for it. The government won't support you for it. And yet you are, so now you're scrambling money just to make sure your dream comes true. And you're paying and paying and paying, but you don't even have enough strong of a cash flow to support that idea. So why at some point you find out like some people do it halfway and they can't keep up anymore. Sometimes they can't even go past the first stage they can't keep up anymore because it's so expensive and the cash flow is not flowing. But yet, when they go to school, when you ask most of the students, what do you want to become? Everyone is talking about being lawyers and doctors and, the president of Nigeria and all this. It's more like a fantasy. And that's because we're not bringing them into reality. Like, yeah, I would have loved you to become a doctor, but the reality is this is how much it will cost for right now. And as you're getting older, the expense is getting more difficult or more expensive. So how are we going to do it? Why don't you think of something else that, we can actually make happen whereby it won't cost at least half as much as being all this people, parents and teachers and students, everyone, they're not having those type of conversations because there's a stigma between, there's a stigma that comes with you saying like, you know what, maybe I want to be a farmer because that probably won't cost me that much to be a farmer. And they're like, you're going to be a farmer at this age. Like, man, you're going to starve me, man. So a lot of people shy away from minimal jobs or jobs that can be self-sufficient and not so expensive to acquire the skills. And everybody wants to go to the university and go and become all this professionalized occupation to the point of, at the end of the day, 100 people fall in the line and maybe 10 of them actually materializes the dream itself. The remaining 90, you find out like they'll end up maybe driving Uber or something. So the problem, I'm sorry for diverting a little bit. The issue is there is a lot of natural resources in Nigeria, but a lot of people don't know what they have based on we're not being educated on what we have. And we cannot just take holes and start digging the floor just to see what's underneath there. But there should have been people that would have surveyed the whole Nigeria, realized what is in there, and channel the school curriculum towards how to turn raw materials into finished products. If they're not doing that, that means they just want to keep us ignorant and having us face the Western world or outside of the continent because they are the ones in control of that because they have the resources, they have the business partners overseas, they can create an atmosphere whereby the foreign investors can come to the continent and extract whatever they want. They get their own share. The foreign people get their own interest too, and it's a done deal. And while all this is being done, the villagers and the populations don't even get a single cut out of it. They don't get no sound education. They don't get no hospitals. They don't get no even recreational centers. Nothing is just between the foreign investors and the government. And yet, a great example is a situation between Shell and the Ogoni people. I don't know if you know about him, but maybe you can research it. It's a very interesting topic because Ogoni village is there. It's kind of like in an isolated area in Nigeria, They are basically villagers, but their livelihood is based on fishery. That's how they make a living. They don't have to pay an arm and a leg just to go to the river and get some fish to, cook. So they are not living so luxuriously, but they are definitely comfortable in the sense of like nature provides what they need. The land provides for them, basically. But then during the whole survey and everything, the government, everything, they realized like there is actually a whole lot of oil on that soil, like in that soil, I mean. And because they saw the government coming around just paying, interest into the land, but eventually they found out like they had oil there, like in large quantities, and everyone was happy, like, oh, we're gonna be rich. Everybody was so excited about discovery of oil that then before you knew it, Shell came in and they started doing their thing, building, should I say, just pumping oil from it. And eventually it got to a point whereby the deal was just between the government and Shell. Shell is pumping over like, I don't even know how many barrels of oil, crude oil, by the way, like every day for years. And the worst part is they were not investing back in the community in any shape or fashion. And the oil spills started uh, polluting the rivers. Now there are no more fishes in the river, and people they can't, the land can't take care of them anymore. The land is being like destroyed. The river is being polluted. The government cannot really help them out. The Shell that are benefiting from the deal, they are acting like they can't do anything. So at some point, they just became stranded in a situation whereby before the deal, they were better off than after the deal was made. And no one from government and the foreign corporations, no one actually saw like the humanity, like, oh, we can't leave this place worse than we met it. If anything, we should leave it better. But
So, I couldn't put my finger on why all those situations did not create some kind of, protest.
it did,
Or-
it did. Actually, it did. That's why the activist Ken Saro-Wiwa, that was what he was trying to do, because at some point he realized what was going on, and he was a pretty educated person, and he started like, you know, like advocating and just letting them know like this is wrong, guys, and he started fighting with the government and all that kind of stuff. But what happened was, I think it was it was a military regime then, and the government wanted to meet them halfway once he started advocating to the point of like everybody was being aware about what was going on in that region of the country. And I don't know, maybe it was I forgotten it, but basically the government met with their representative, and the government told them like, okay, you know what, guys, tell us what you want. Tell us what you want. You guys come together, let us know what we can do for you. We'll meet you guys halfway, whatever. And you know, they really didn't know what to say, because then I think King Saruwa or some in their little group, they were like, why don't we go and look at the foreign nations, how they treat the community that they basically they said they wanted to be treated how foreign countries treated the people in the community where they get their oil from. I don't even think that existed at that time, but that was the ideology. And they were like, we have never traveled outside of this village. So, and the government was like, you know what? We'll pick one person, a representative, and we'll give him an opportunity to travel outside of the country and go do the observation. So you guys can come up with your demands and we'll meet you guys halfway. And that's when they gave Ken Saro-Wiwa the opportunity to come overseas and, you know, make some observation and come up with their demands. But I think when he came overseas, he didn't focus on what he was meant to do here. He actually saw that as an opportunity to actually bring the case to an international stage, you know, because at some point it felt like they were being cornered by Nigerian government, because they didn't even want him to travel. They seized his passport. They didn't want him to travel, but it was the right guy to travel at that point, because no one was as educated as he was, and you know, so they had to release his passport and let him travel. And when he came here, he basically diverted the attention and was trying to grab the attention of the international community, pointing to what Shell is doing and what Nigerian government was doing at the same time. And that created a friction between the Nigerian government and the Ogoni people too. Eventually, when he went back to Nigeria, the people in his group, like the fellowship, they were pretty upset, thinking like, dude, you just hijacked the whole movement you've made it a personal thing now, because you're the one going to maybe BBC and everywhere and doing it. And so that created a friction. But this stuff kept building on. I don't want to take too much of your time. It kept building on to the point that there was two different ideologies in the same community. The 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 elders felt like this is how they want to do it. And the youth felt like the elders were just taking bribes and not doing anything for what they, and eventually one of these days, the youth decided to go and capture the elders while they were having a gathering, and they actually killed all of them. And once they did that, then the government pounced on them, and that's how there was no movement or anything about that situation. And because that gave the government a leeway to come and just shut everything down, you know. So it's a sad story, but that was what happened.
Any questions here in Zoom?
Do you feel that the youth were like a kind of color revolution or something like that?
Say that again.
Were the youth motivated by the Nigerian government? Or
Oh, not necessarily. What they felt is like the elders, because the people in that community that were chosen to be representatives were more of people that were already in position of power, like the chiefs, the priests, and everybody, and they felt like they were being bribed, like they were getting some kind of kickbacks from just keeping everything the way it is, and whatever they're getting, it's not trickling down back to the community or the youth. So they've been going.
So it was a native brief that they had.
Yeah.
Instead of like somebody from his own.
Yeah, that's the little I know. I really don't know what happened there, but the little I know about it was like there was a conflict between the youth and the elders.
Yeah.
And I think the youth went too far by like assassinating the elders in the gathering, and that prompted the government to actually just get involved and neutralize everything.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar.
Yeah, but you can check out the stories, the Ogoni people and Shell. It's been a while, or Ken Saro-Wiwa, if you can.
I knew Charles Weaver, I think.
Yeah, that's probably his relative.
So, what was the outcome with
Actually, Shell is still pretty there. They've been in Nigeria since forever. So and they have strategic locations. So even if they decide not to function here anymore, you find out like they are in some other region and they're still doing it because they've been. That's what I'm saying. Even though the independence and all that stuff was there and they left, those are like representatives of imperialism and what they really wanted out of Nigeria in the first place. And like Chevron, Shell, BP, there's a whole lot of gas stations like that, Total Energy.
So they have like the multinational corporations, but with Nigerians heading with the operation.
Not necessarily with Nigerians adding, I'm just saying like, I wouldn't be surprised to see Nigerians being in those kind of key positions because literally, I'll say it's somewhat uncomfortable for a foreigner to live in Nigeria because of mosquitoes, the disorder, chaos, and everything. So at some point, if they can find like a trusted Nigerian that is on the same page and can still get the job done, they will probably have that person there to represent their interest than having, should I say, a foreigner that doesn't really want to be there, don't speak the language, don't understand the psychology of where he's at. You know, we still have some expatriates and that still come and still get the job done. But I feel like mostly is if they are naturally adventurous and they are willing to adapt and learn and they don't want to be where they are and they were willing to move, then because eventually you find some of them that speak the Nigerian language, eat Nigerian food, even like they know the Nigerian routine now because they've been there long enough and they're not skeptical about being in Nigeria, just like a foreigner that's never been there. So yeah, basically that's just what it is they're still there. I think at this point, I read something online saying like Shell was trying to sell its shares or trying to just get out of Nigeria because at this point I don't think business is still going good, but maybe the profit is not as high or the constant break of the oil pipes, and they have to keep repairing it, and it's costing them out of the budget because the pipe has to be pretty solid for it to flow from that region to that region. And sometimes the, what do you call these people? There's some people, especially around that Ogoni village area, once they realize like they were not getting nothing out of the deal, they go behind the doors and bust the pipes and, refine it by themselves and sell it on the black market on the streets, and they just stay in the jungle and keep getting as much as they can. And you'd be surprised, they'll refine it by themselves. And I'm looking like, at this point, if the Nigerian government, instead of them trying to, okay, you can definitely discipline them for like, the damages and everything, but you cannot ignore the knowledge that they have in turning crude oil into like petrol or whatever is needed, because that's how they're doing it. So why can't you find a way after they've served their whole, the idea of breaking the law or destroying property? You can't just throw them back on the street. You should actually use that knowledge and maybe see how you can build a refinery and have them work in it or something, because not a lot of people know how to do that. And these people are basically, they are able to do it with their, should I say, bare hands and scraps, and they are still getting the job done to the point of like they're actually selling it as a finished product. That's something to, I don't want to say clap for, but it's pretty intelligent to me. And I don't think you should just criminalize them and just have them spend years in jail. And after they're out, they don't have a job, they don't have anything, whereby they have a skill that is useful to the Nigerian people in general. And right now, imagine yourself wanting to go to school, let's even say in America, to go and learn how to refine crude oil into finished product. That's going to cost you an arm and a leg. But they were able to, they have that knowledge by themselves, and yet you still want to criminalize them and don't give them an opportunity to shine or make use of the knowledge that they have. So I think like the underdevelopment of Africa itself, it's intentional. It's not based on we have slow people, or there are forces trying to keep it the way it is. If
And
not
that's
so,
gonna be like a follow-up question, like you said, they're finding ways to convert like crude oil into like other things that are valuable in the marketplace. Do you think the government is intentionally like brokering deals with these companies so that people are not just able to like have a pipeline of schooling to like the oil industry if it's so
definitely,
valuable?
definitely. Even at this point, I feel like the government has too much power over our daily existence, which they don't need to, especially if they are using it to miseducate us or weaponize it against us. Then I don't even think we should be following those kind of laws, because it's different if I don't know you are misleading me. I might be dumb enough to keep going. But the moment I realize like you are actually misleading me, I have the right not to follow that lead anymore. And that's what is happening, because it took me a while to get to this point. My dream was to go to school and go and get a degree, and but after I did all that and I'm looking like, oh, I'm still in the same place, man. Maybe I need to start educating myself instead of paying thousands or whatever to try and get a degree whereby I'm still gonna expect to be hired by somebody else with almost 13 years of education. Whatever I do for 13 years, I should be a grandmaster in it. As long as I've been doing it every day for 13 years, then how come the education system is still leaving you as an employee or still praying somebody else hires you after 13 years of schooling? That's bad business. On my own opinion, it's bad business. So at this point, it's almost like you have to start educating yourself. Basically, what do I need? What would I like to do? And start doing that. Before you spend that 13 years, you will find yourself in a better situation, and you'll be more self-sufficient than still depending on some entity to hire you. And it's based on, if they decide not to hire you, then what are you going to do? You have to start from ground zero all over again. Like all that schooling didn't matter at all. So I don't know. I think it's being done intentionally, and a lot of people don't realize that because we are all following the structure that's been created for us. But if the structure is not working, because as long as the education is not catering to the problems and solutions that we are facing in Africa on a daily basis, then it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You better off living in the jungle and learning how to kill lions. That will give you more survival skills than going to the classroom, because basically most of the students are becoming bench warmers. And after once they've done their whole time, the next set of bench warmers will start all over again from the elementary school to the university level. After they're done, it has now become a repeating cycle whereby we don't see what we are benefiting from this education. And education is supposed to enlighten, broaden your mind, whereby you'll be self-sufficient. Like you don't need anybody. You can just look around like, what do I need to make my life better? Oh, maybe if I get this and cook this and do that, I should be able to. And you attempt it, and before you know, you get it. But when you are being indoctrinated in such a way, like it has narrowed you down to a specific field, and that's all you can do. If anybody talks outside of that field, you don't know nothing about it. You just have to be like an illiterate. But when it comes to that field you've been taught and everything, that's the only place you can actually thrive. So if anything happens to your degree that keeps you in a good position in that field, you are as vulnerable as someone that didn't even go to school. So that's not education. That's not education from my own perspective. And I was going to ask you this question too, and I would love to hear your opinion. Are you ready for it? Okay.
Ready.
I would like to know from your opinion, who is an illiterate? How do you define who an illiterate is?
What's that?
An illiterate.
Illiterate.
Illiterate. I'm sorry for my accent.
Illiterate, I don't know. I only have like an abstract idea.
No, just so it doesn't have to be
You don't
right.
read.
No, because it's actually a broad.
But you're asking about specific standard.
No, not at all. I just, from that question, what came to mind when I said, can you define who an illiterate is?
Someone who's not able to read
Someone who's not able to read.
or write.
All right, okay. All right.
So why that question?
No, the question is, at some point I got it confused, like who is an illiterate? Because from Nigeria, from a Nigerian's perspective, an illiterate is someone that can't speak English, someone that can't write English. That is who an illiterate is in the circumference of Nigeria. Even they call you an illiterate, that's what they technically mean.
Oh, that's immensely interesting. I never thought of that.
Tell you, and
English is an official language, right? How many official languages in Nigeria?
No, actually, English is.
It's not even an official language.
No, it is. It is definitely. It is.
Are there other official languages?
There is no other official language.
So if you don't speak or if you don't write, or if you don't use the language, that you're illiterate. I guess that's pretty practical
exactly
way of looking at it.
But what happens is, based on so many different dialects and ethnicity, like I said, we have about like 250. So in order for us to elevate and meet one another as one on the upper side of things, English is the connector.
I see.
So even though, let me say you're Yoruba, if you don't know how to speak English, you might not be able to speak to your Igbo brother. If he's Igbo too, if he doesn't know how to speak English, he might not be able to connect with a Yoruba guy, even if you're out and it goes that way. So even though this is your native tongue, English is the equalizer, whereby, especially if you're trying to acquire knowledge and be an intellectual or something, that's why English became like the dominant language, because
yeah, that's practical.
Yeah, so that's
India, they have many languages in there, but they communicate with each other cross regions in English.
Yeah.
So Singapore, small country, they use English to communicate officially because, we're not gonna speak Malay or Hindi or Chinese, right? If you say we do Hindi or the Chinese and Malay, they say, oh, it's not fair. So, okay, let's not fight. We all speak English. I mean,
That's kind of the same ideology that we are facing in Nigeria too. But to go a bit deeper, it's almost like, who do you think is more of an illiterate? Someone that speaks English and writes English but doesn't know how to speak his native tongue, or someone that speaks and writes their native tongue but don't know how to speak English?
I think English is probably more important. Yeah, I'm from a practical standpoint.
Okay.
If you can speak English, the other languages are not that important.
Do you speak Mandarin?
Yeah, I do.
Do you speak Yoruba?
Yes, I do.
I try to speak Spanish, but
I actually oppose you on that because the reality is English is so important when you are trying to deal with the rest of the world. It's so important. That's why, and at some point, even to today, that's why it's the way it is. Because at some point, everywhere else you go, English seems to be like the dominating factor. But the reality is, for people that have basically lost their identity, their religion, their livelihood, their everything, knowing how to speak their language even means more than English. Because number one, not all of them, not everyone is going to travel outside of Nigeria. The amount of people that will stay in Nigeria outweighs the amount of people that would go overseas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, right. I mean, if your own clan, you naturally, you're born to it, you can speak it or listen, you can hear it, understand it. But writing is probably, it's not that much of a cross in writing. So it's less likely that you're not able to speak the language of your own tribe or your own clan. But English is something additional, right? Is it fair to say that you pretty much, most people can speak their own tribal language or write? Or
not most, especially.
so if you
not most, because what's happening with someone like me now, I literally got to a stage in my life like I forgot or I was forgetting how to speak Yoruba because I've been in America for quite some time, and it dawned on me like if I don't find a way to, and I don't see a lot of people that I can interact with. I don't have friends that speak Yoruba like that. So it's almost like I'm constantly using my English and it's helping me out to connect with people. But at the same time, I'm losing the retained knowledge.
Right, you don't use it, you kind of lose it.
You know?
need to
So
make an effort to.
So basically, I find myself in a situation whereby I basically try and maybe I write songs sometimes, or I write in my native tongue, but I recite in my native tongue, but I can't write it. But I can still speak it, but I can't write it. And that's the best I can do for right now. I can't actually write it, but I can speak it. But what's going on generation after generation is parents are trying to make sure like their children don't speak the native tongue.
Oh.
Like
why is that?
Because I guess they believe English is more lucrative and it's more useful.
They can do both.
Yeah, but I know at this point they're not even trying to do both because the moment, that's what I'm saying about classism. Because the moment you start speaking your native tongue, that puts you in another class automatically. And some people think they're upper class because they only speak pure English, and that means they are part of the democratic, the diplomatic, and so some even know how to speak their native tongue but hide it because they don't want to deal with the stigma of they're looking at me like, oh, so you speak another language? And I'm like, how did we get to this point, guys?
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Is that only in the diaspora or in Nigeria where that's common to not want
It's everywhere, in Nigeria and in the diaspora.
that they don't want to learn how to speak?
It's not, in the diaspora, it's kind of different because we can't judge them on the same scale. In Nigeria, you can actually judge them on another scale, which is the dialect is pretty accessible. It's in the community. You can find friends that you can speak it with, and even some of the teachers carry Yoruba names, Igbo names, you know they speak it. But based on the curriculum that is being presented in schools, and your native tongue is actually called vernacular, which means a language we don't speak here. So all the students, when they're in school, is basically English. And when they get home, the little space that they have to even practice, because they spend close to 8 hours in school every day. So when they get home, instead of them being able to speak their native tongue or their parents speaking their native tongue to them, their parents will just only interact with them in English too. Maybe they think they're helping them get better in English, or that's my
So like,
kid.
is that sentiment in Nigeria mostly, or do parents here raising your kids have a similar?
Yeah, I could say it's half and half, but based on how useless speaking your native tongue might turn out to be in the Western atmosphere, then some parents would rather have their kids just speak strictly English. Because why are you speaking? If you want to get a job, are you gonna speak your native tongue to get a job? If you're in school, why are you speaking English? If you're gonna, so when you add those elements, some parents would rather just drift into we better start practicing and getting better with our English because this is where we are now, and that's how we roll. Whereas some people are so sensitive, like they don't want to lose their native tongue, so they still meet their kids halfway, whereby when they're in school and with their friends at their job, they speak their English, but when they're at home, they try and initiate the native tongue. Even some of them end up being in a situation whereby the kids can't speak it back to the parents, but they definitely understand, you know, just like how I cannot write it, but I can definitely speak it. There are people, at least some of my friends, they can't speak it back, but they definitely understand what you're talking about. And that's the efforts that the parents made to make sure, like, he or she exposed the language to the child at such a young age and try and interpret and give it meanings whereby it's easier for the kid to understand. They might not be able to say it back, but they definitely understand what they're talking about in their native tongue. So it's 50-50 basically.
Robert, you have any comments, questions?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just looking up the literacy rate of Nigeria, and what's really amazing, in 2004 it was only 55%, and then in 2020 21 it rose up to 78% almost, but it declined in 2024 back to 60%. So that and I would have to say that's probably due to the COVID epidemic, which affected everybody's education worldwide. But also the different groups, the Igbo and the Edo had the highest literacy rates, followed by the Yoruba, and the lowest literacy rates are the Fulani, Kanuri, and the Hausa. So there's a large disparity in the country, and also within the urban areas, the literacy rate is much higher than the rural areas. And then we're talking about a population of about over 200 million people, for comparison.
Yeah.
But Egypt, with a population of almost the same, its literacy rate is about 60% or somewhere near there. And Ethiopia is actually 54%. So if you compare Nigeria, which is one of the most populated countries in Africa, with the other two heavily populated countries in Africa, they're actually not doing too bad.
Oh, okay. I will definitely agree with you to an extent, but like I said, what you're seeing online might not translate to what is on the ground. And that's coming from someone that I do spend time online and I do spend time on the ground. And I can give
Yeah,
you
well,
facts.
I got these numbers from a guy named Frederick Igosa, which is a Nigerian himself, I guess. So I don't know where he's getting his from, but I also went on UNICEF, and they basically gave me the same things. So I got two different sources telling me almost the same thing about the literacy rate, but I am thinking, you got Nigeria, which has a population of 200 million people. The government major source of income is petroleum products and other things like that, which commodities on the world market highly fluctuate between one thing to the another. So it's hard for the government to make long-term forecasts for their budget and everything when they are what you call a renter economy rather than a developed economy. So there's a lot of things that they can approve on the government, but corruption is very, very rampant there. So I would have to look at the corruption index for Nigeria, but I imagine it is very, very high.
Okay, let me take it from this point. The reality is whatever statistics and you're getting on online, that's actually accessible to anybody that wants to do that,
Yeah.
But I'm definitely telling you based out of experience. And if the literacy level in Nigeria is up to 60%, that means you're saying, let's do the math, okay? That means let's just give them 200 million people. That means 60% of 2 million will be like around 120 million people are basically educated out of, I don't know, you can do the math, but what I'm telling you, like, it's not tallying up because education is not free. If you say that about America, it's somewhat believable because from your elementary to your high school level, it's free, taken care of by the government. So naturally, everyone is forced to go to school because this is not about your income or anything like that. Until your high school, if you get a scholarship or you can afford college, that's something different. But the government guarantees you going to public school or whatever from your elementary to your high school. So if you tell me like America's literacy rate is somewhat that high, or that's even believable. But for Nigeria, since from your elementary to your university, let's even put it to high school, you start paying, you pay the school fees for that many years. So, and we are dealing with population whereby, like you said, the economy is not that strong. And a regular African has literally close to no earning power. He has to do minimal jobs
Yeah.
or
Hey, I do want to interject. I just looked up the corruptions index, and Nigeria is 26 out of 100 score, and it ranks 140th out of 180 nations as far as corruption, which means it's a very corrupt country as far as perception goes. And this is from transparency.org. So it has a long way to go to do something about corruption. And I think once they find a way to root out the corruption, a lot of your other things will start taking care of themselves.
the corruption is nothing new to us. Since the 1960s, we've been dealing with corruption, even way before that. But let's even say since independence, we've been dealing with corruption. And the only way we can tackle corruption is from the bottom up. not from the
Exactly.
up to the
Exactly.
bottom. So at that point, what I'm telling you is like the people that are truly illiterate, like in the Nigerian terminology, the people that are truly disadvantaged, that they can't get a job, they can't go to school, they don't have a place to stay, they are basically homeless, they don't have access, they don't have resources, they don't have connections. Those are the people we need to work with. And you can make sure like they are not corrupt. As long as they are not corrupt, they can build from the bottom up and they will be able to tackle corruption, maybe at the middle ground or wherever they meet each other. But the idea, like trying to tackle corruption from the top to the bottom, it's not going to work. That's been a regular routine for however long now. The people that really that we need to try and cater to right now are the people that are so disadvantaged, because when you're talking about almost 50 to 60% of Nigerians are literate or educated, I'm wondering like that's, if you didn't cut me off, you would have realized why that is so not true, because more than half of the population live between abject poverty and below poverty line. More than half of the population. You can go on Google, they will tell you like, oh, they make do whatever they're telling you. But me as a Nigerian, that I just came back from Nigeria, I'm not even talking about the old Nigeria. Lagos is one of the most lucrative, most productive states in the whole Nigeria. And even in Lagos, you can see like, wow, this is not, it's just for a few. Well, compared to people that actually live in comfortably, it outnumbers people that they don't even know what they're doing with their lives. And I'm telling you, at this point, is as long as every single step of the way, you have to keep paying and paying and paying and paying and paying, even for a newborn child to get educated. If the parents don't have money to pay for the school fees, that means that kid would not be educated. If the parents don't have money to buy the food, that means that kid would not be fed. If so, it goes even water. If the parents don't have money to buy water, that means that kid would not have water to drink. And yet they don't have a sense of like how how to make this economy roll in such a way like money is not so, money is one of the hardest things to come across in Nigeria. It's easier to spend than to make money in Nigeria in itself. So if we add all these elements on top of one another, how can you tell me like basically half of the population are educated? Anyone that is even educated on the disadvantaged side, that means truly they are interested in being educated. And most of the time, they self-educate. Maybe they might read a book or two, or someone else that goes to school will probably just give them a book like, oh, I read this book in class. It's a very interesting book, The Drummer Boy. You should read it. And that's how they get to the point of they know how to speak English fluently, they write fluently, even though they didn't go to school. But other than that, there is no way out. If your parents don't have money, you basically cannot go to any school for free in Nigeria anymore. Yet back in the 60s, our grandparents, our even great grandparents, most of them had the opportunity to go to school till until the university level, basically for free. It was the government that was paying for that. But now the government doesn't even interfere in educating anybody. Everything is now for profit. Even hospitals is for profit. Schools is for profit. Everything, even basic necessity, everything is for profit right now. So, and the money is not circulating well enough for everybody to be fine. So the way I'm looking at things is, if things doesn't change, then something will escalate at some point, whereby people that have had enough just push back, like, we don't want to be governed by these people anymore. That's why I thank God for Ibrahim Traoré, because at some point in the nearest future, if Nigeria don't start getting the act together of being progressive, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of disadvantaged Nigerians moving to Burkina Faso and at least building
Okay.
with them.
Hey, I sent a link on the chat. SOAS, which is a School of Oriental and African Studies, in London. It's a part of the University of London system. They have an anti-corruption center, and Nigeria is a part of the study that they put together. And the website has a lot of links on how they're bringing to light all the different types of things that are holding the country back. So it's a very important resource, and also to be able to liaison with groups that are trying to keep corruption down in order to improve the lot of Nigeria and other countries that face very high corruption scores. So that is a very good resource.
Good, thanks. Maybe I'll get it from Eric once we're done.
What is the time frame that we have here? When do we break?
So we'll wrap up 4:30 at the latest.
4:30? Ola, do you have that book set?
Yeah, I do. I brought it along. I'll let you have it.
How's it going with reading it?
Oh, actually, I've been reading something else for right now. That's why I'm like, maybe I should return it to you before. Yeah, but I have it with me, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, basically, the thing I'm gonna say about corruption is like we have to look at it from a bigger scope of things, because let me use, excuse me, our leadership in Nigeria for an example, not just even the current one. Let's start from however it's been going on. The reality is like what happens is most of all this, one of our president, like General Sani Abacha, he like embezzled and looted so much money and transferred it overseas. I don't know, maybe Swiss bank or wherever, but basically this guy took so much money out of all the resources and just money that was meant for the nation, and he basically made it his personal money. And these foreign countries were actually embezzling it for him. Like, you know how Swiss bank is, very secretive, confidential, and everything. So the money sat there, and however long, but we knew because he was definitely brutal and his regime was based on corruption and everything. And at some point, he ended up dying. And when he died, then later, I forgotten the bank, they now brought it to the air like, oh, that this guy's looted this certain amount of money and whatever. And I was devastated because now what are they doing with the money? Because we have to ask like key questions, not just about corruption. We have to pinpoint who are the people enabling the corruption. Because number one, I would say like Sani Abacha, he forgot like there is no honors amongst thieves. Because even though he made the trade and he got the money, it would have been more secure in Nigerian bank than a Western bank, number one, but based on the hard currency, he probably thought he could steal more. And at the end of the day, he can just run away from Nigeria and go stay maybe in Paris, anywhere, and he has his dollars and his pounds over there. But eventually, you sold them something, they gave you the money, and you sent the money right back to where it came from. That's what the equation says, because at the end of the day, when he died, now they announced it like the money has been looted and whatever. So what are you guys doing with the money? Are you going to send it back to the rightful owners, which are the Nigerians on the soil? Or are you still scared of corruption that you actually took the money? Because at this point, before that money came, you should have figured out what's the source of income. Like, why do you have this much money? How did you get it? So you definitely knew like that money wasn't clean or wasn't earned legally or however you want to put it before you accepted it. But now that it's dead, you're presenting it like you don't condone this type of act. So, and I bet you would have invested a whole lot with that money, made your country run better, business as usual. But at some point, you declaimed the money like it was stolen. I'm like, okay, then what do you want to do with the money now? Are you going to send it back to Nigeria? Or you are still skeptical about this corrupted government and you don't want to send it back and, they misuse it. So are you going to keep the money for yourself, or are you going to allocate the money to Nigerians that are living in the diaspora? But definitely, you can't keep that money for yourself because it's not yours, and you are even proclaiming it like it was uh, it, you got it, they got it through corrupted means. And so at some point, it's not just pointing fingers like Nigeria is corrupt, or there's a whole bunch of, there's a circle whereby everybody is just pushing the blame whenever it suits them, pushing the blame. But everybody definitely know what's going on. And because that case was a very significant one for me, because where did that money go? I'm talking about in the billions of dollars. So where did it go? And every single Nigerian suffered when Abacha was ruling, because he was very brutal and he didn't care. Absolute power, absolute corruption. So everybody knew, like, this guy, what you're doing is not sane. But what can we do? You are in the position of power. So after that is said and done, all the money he embezzled for himself, what are you guys doing with it? You can't send it back to Nigeria. And even if you did, what did the government do with it? Especially with the IMF, maybe if I have a chance, I can read you a paragraph or two. They keep claiming like they're giving African aids, like IMF now, just like they allocated almost $203 billion or pounds even to, so I have it somewhere here. If you want me to go through it, we can do.
Yeah.
But it's like,
We have 5 minutes.
okay, let me check it out. But it's like like one of the major reasons that they said, like, the problems we are facing is lack of international support. And it's like World Bank's portfolio includes 3.71 billion in commitment as of March 2025. I mean, the European Union committed 283 million pounds in grants between 2021 and 2024. The United States assistance suspended most bilateral aid after the coup of 2022 coup, ending eligibility for African Growth and Opportunity Act trade benefits. But all these amounts, if you guys are allocating, and why are we not seeing the development or the drastic change that all this amount should actually have on ground? Oh, it's still looking like even worse than the 60s. But yeah, this is of 2005. And that's what I'm saying. What you're seeing online is totally different, because they might be operating on a higher level of things, which I'm not there, and I cannot tell you what they're doing or what they're not doing. But on the lower ground of things, I'm there and I see what's going on. Even in the United States, if they can spend 283 million pounds or even 3.71 billion in commitment, trust me, we're gonna see the difference. We are going to see a huge difference. Like, that's restructuring of everything. So at some point, I feel like this is just a money-making scam for people to personally get wealthy, but get props for doing what they're not really doing. Because if they were doing it, words should match action, and we should be able to see the consistency. How would you be spending this much money in Africa and it's still underdeveloped in 2025? How you giving so much grants and it's still underdeveloped, and you're not questioning it, and you are not saying, hey, nope, we can't give you any grants anymore because we definitely gave you that much, and what did you do with it? There's no accountability. There's no transparency. The people are voiceless, even though they have hands, legs, they are paralyzed, and yet that's a democratic structure that we should keep following. No, I don't think so. I don't think it sits well with a lot of people. It's just everyone is tired of the same old routine and don't know what to do and how to go about it. And I refuse to just sit down idle, because I'm a bit disappointed with our elders especially I don't even really care about the presidents or whoever, but the elder Nigerians in the diaspora, like they've been here for 40, 50 years or however long they've been, and they cannot even try whatever they have to, but you cannot sit down and watch things fall apart and don't participate in your little way, even if you get recognized for it or not. Because as long as you are keeping silence and you are still abiding to what, and you know, like this is not going to lead us anywhere, then I'm not going to sit down like that. And that's why I'm here now. It's not even like I had to come. It's an opportunity for me to express myself and tell you what I know about it. And I would rather do that. Why are we not seeing that from the elders that have been here even way longer than I've been, that have more experience, that have more knowledge, more insight, more resources than I do? Why are we not seeing that from them? And yet you expect me just to be blaming the presidents or the no, everybody has to play their part. The president is doing, because I don't know his situation. I'm just talking from my own opinion and my perspective and the angle that I see things. I don't know what the president is going through, what ties his hands for not doing what he has to do. If I was close enough with him, I probably would understand him a lot better. But since I'm not there, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about the people I'm close enough with that I know what the situation is, but we're not doing anything, then I'll do whatever I can do. And no matter how little it is, I appreciate myself for doing it because someone has to. Someone definitely has to. If
Is there a recording of this?
Yeah, it's still recorded.
Which, I'd like to review it.
Yeah, I will
Really
post it.
fascinating.
I will post it.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
So, any final words?
no, not really.
I get your sentiment
No,
I have-
it's reality because
on the ground.
it's just like I don't know if we can have another one of this because I actually came with a lot of material. I have almost about like 22 pages and I've not even touched it yet. I'm just freestyling with you right now based on what if I were to go through this paperwork with you. Wow.
Is it possible?
Wow.
Is it possible that I can?
We'll have you back sometime.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying because half of it I've not even touched it yet.
Hold on, can I get into people?
Oh,
So,
yeah, let's round it up.
meeting's adjourned and I'll
Yeah.
stop the recording.
All right.
I mean,
so-
you asked. People like fascinating stuff out. Important points.